A stonecutter was laboring, chipping away at the face of a mountain. It was hard work, and it was his reality, day after day. As he cut the rock, a wealthy merchant passed by, carried on a palanquin by a team of porters. "How fortunate is he," said the stonecutter to himself. "While I labor endlessly, his life is effortless. How I wish I were him." There must have been some magic in the air because he was immediately transported into the merchant's body. He found himself on some plush cushion. "Ah, this is the life," said the stonecutter. But in a few minutes, he began to sweat profusely. It was a hot day, and the sun was beating down. His silk gown was soon soaked. Glancing up, he said, "How I wish I were the sun." It was up there unencumbered, overlooking everything. Once again, in an instant, he became the sun. Up in the sky, he could see the world, but soon the sun found his rays blocked. There was a giant cloud. Again, discontent kicked in, and the stonecutter wished to be like the cloud that could float through the sky and block the sun. And in an instant, he was the cloud, floating freely in the sky. Suddenly, however, he found himself pushed firmly against his will. It was the wind moving him around. "How I wish I was the wind," said the stonecutter quickly. And he became the wind. The wind roamed about, rushing through the sky, through the trees, and then it was stopped abruptly. It had collided with the mountain. "I wish I was the mountain," said the stonecutter. And once again, there he was, the mighty mountain, standing tall and firm. But only for a moment, for there was a sharp pain at its base. Looking down, he saw a humble stonecutter chipping away. The stonecutter wished himself back to his original form. In his original state, he found his own value in being himself. Welcome back to the palace. I'm your host, Crown Vic, and today we're going to talk about the importance of being yourself and how to let your light shine during these dark times. A Google search would tell you that over 7.75 billion people are living in this world today, and every last billion are unique in different ways. There is not another you or me having the same experience or purpose for existing on this planet. With over 1 billion possible paths, too many of us choose the way not meant for us, and ultimately, we end up wasting our time doing what we do not want, failing to fulfill our lives with meaning. Too often, we confuse our wants with our needs. I want this house because it has an indoor pool. I want this career because it pays the most money. I want to be with this person because I don't want to be left alone. Sometimes what we want isn't always what we need. You may want water when you're thirsty, but you need to stay hydrated. You may want that indoor pool, but you need to stay within your own budget. There are way too many people in this big old world chasing what they want and not enough people utilizing what they need. When this happens, we lose our way, and as a result, sometimes we take more than we need and create problems for everybody else. There's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi that says, "The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed." The question I want to present in this message is, how do we know what we need? How do we know what we need? There is more than one answer to this question, and I'm not going to pretend like I have the only one answer. Every one of us has a unique response to this question. The purpose of this message is to inspire others to find their own solution. And what better way to start than from the source? Where there is confusion, look to God who offers clarity. Where there is indifference, God offers passion. Where there is dismay, God offers peace. And where there is darkness, God offers light. The inspiration behind this message comes to us from Matthew chapter 5, verse 14 through 16. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. The title of this message: Let your light shine before mankind and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. As a teacher, I often ask some of my students what they want to be when they grow up. And here are some of the responses I get. Darnell, I say to this one kid, bigger than the other kids in class. It was apparent by his size that he was held back a grade. I knew this because I had him the previous year while he was busy wasting time with his friends. He heard me call his name, and this was the response. Huh? He said, a little dopey. What do you want to be when you grow up, Darnell? That's not his real name, by the way. Oh, I want to be an NBA player. Yeah, that's what I want to be. Okay, why? I said, probing for a deeper response. Because I want to get rich and buy a big house, yep. Okay, so what do you do after school? This kid loved to be a class clown, so I knew what to expect from his answer. I ride the motor scooters downtown until about 2 a.m. in the morning. 2 in the morning, Darnell? And your mama? What about her? She let you stay out that late? Yeah. Does she ride the motor scooters with you? Nah. She drops me off until I call her to pick me up. And how old are you? I asked, not sure what I was expecting. 14? Okay. How would that help you be a basketball player? I don't know. You know you need to go to college for that, right? I know. Well, what are your grades looking like? I make straight A's, he said, and then proceeded not to finish his assignment. We were all kids once upon a time. Some of us still are. If not physically, then kids at heart. When I was a kid, I wanted to sing like Michael Jackson. I had it all mapped out in my head. I was going to go on a world tour and was going to kick my feet up in the air with my glittering glove. The fans were going to go wild. Fast forward to today, and here I am, a middle school teacher with angsty teenage kids wanting to be anywhere else but the classroom. No adoring fans, no signature glove, just a blue or black marker I used to write my name on the board because the students could name every star on TikTok but couldn't remember my name. Mr. Evans, they would say, when he hadn't taught there in the past 3 years. No angelic voice for me to win the crowds, just a voice that might shake the bones of a 6th grade class that can't follow directions. But this is not who I really want to be. I didn't mind the concept of teaching. I just didn't want to be a teacher in this public school system. There's just too much politics involved for my taste. But despite my less than pleasurable experience in wanting to be there, too many people keep telling me that I need to be there. Maybe I'm missing my why. But what's so important about the why? Every time I go to a teacher development meeting, they ask about my why. It can get so tedious, it sounds corny and predictable. Why do you want to teach? Is what they often said in the nice cushioned chairs. In my mind, I would think, well, I need the money. These bills won't pay themselves. I wouldn't do this for free. That's when I started to think about what I would do for free if no one were paying me for my time and why. Some people think that what they want to do for a living is sleep. But when I hear that, I think about what I once saw posted on Facebook. This new generation doesn't want to work, the post went. You could pay them to sleep and they'll wake up mad complaining about the pillow being too fluffy and the mattress being too firm. Sleep is good from time to time, but only in time of rest. It states in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, there's a season for everything. There's a time for rest and there's a time for work. Even God rested on the seventh day, but it was during the first 6 days He made the heavens and the earth. Why? For mankind. When it is time for work, we must ask ourselves what we are working toward and why. What is it that fuels our fire? What will help us shine during our journey to see clearly? One might think money is the real motivator, but money is an external motivation. It can only carry us so far down the path God intended for us. A man was walking down the street when he saw 3 stone cutters. Curious, he asked the first one, "What are you doing?" "I'm doing this to get a paycheck," was his response. Coming upon the second, he asked the same question. "I am creating the most beautiful stones. Look at how perfectly they are polished. The corners are perfectly rounded and each is perfectly shaped. My goal is to be the best stone cutter in the world." Impressed, the man asked the third stone cutter. His response was, "I am building a cathedral. My goal is to create a place where the community will come together to worship." We all have seen the first man. He's there to make a few bucks and may be the easiest to motivate because he is so obvious about what drives him. He won't waste time on something he won't get paid for and will be highly productive. However, he can be a mercenary and have little loyalty or connection to his purpose. The second man is the subject matter expert, practitioner of the business. He has mastered the craft and continues to excel at the necessary functions. We sometimes call them accountants, engineers, programmers, or maybe marketers. Every business needs them, but they often struggle with seeing the big picture because they focus on the product or the process. He can be an excellent supervisor because he can create excellence in his area or function. But he struggles as a manager or leader because their perfection trumps their purpose. Finally, there is the third man, the visionary. He is the architect. He understands not only what purpose the stone is serving, but what purpose the cathedral will serve. After all, form follows function, and the function of the cathedral must be known. However, he can be so caught up in the vision and overthinking that he doesn't produce like the first man or create the quality of the second man. So while there are pros and cons to all 3 approaches, I want to focus on the purpose of the third stone cutter, the one who knows his why. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, the Apostle Paul talks about the treasure in our earthly vessels. He goes on to explain that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us, and that we should not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. There will be times when the money we used to see isn't coming in as we're used to seeing it on our journey. There will be times when the love that we used to feel doesn't come as easy as it used to. And when both of these reasons are no longer in our field of vision, we must have our why to fall back on. The strongest whys don't usually come from self-interest pursuits, but rather is from the interest of others. When our why becomes about helping others rather than helping only ourselves is when we shine the brightest. Each of us has a God-given gift in our earthly vessels, and we're to share it with the world. The problem is, many of us don't recognize our talents. We sometimes look at what someone else is doing and think we will be much better off if we had what they had. We sometimes look at who someone else is with or where someone else is and wish we were there with no idea of how they got there or what they had to put up with all the time. Not everything that glitters for one person will spark for the other. Everyone has their own unique light. We can become too busy trying to keep up with the latest trend that we neglect the present, which is a gift. And if we're not careful, we might live our entire lives without uncovering our purpose. What is our why? What is it that gives us meaning? What is our God-given talent out of billions of people and is uniquely ours to cultivate and nurture? Some people think they don't have anything to offer. There's this new trend that there's no meaning to anything but living. And if that's your point of view, then that's your point of view. But I can't imagine a meaningless existence that becomes only living to die. There's no direction in darkness until there's light. Our light is to be fueled from a flicker before it is to be a flame. In Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 through 30, Jesus spoke of the parable of the talents. There was a master with 3 servants entrusted with his property. Each servant was left with a different amount of talent. He gave one 5, another 2, and the last he gave 1, according to their ability. When the master went away, the servant with 5 talents immediately went out and traded and made 5 more talents. The servant with 2 made an extra 2 talents, while the one with just 1 talent dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. When the master returned, one of those servants came and settled accounts with them. The one with 5 talents came forward and said, "Master, you delivered 5 talents to me. Here, I have made 5 more." His master said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." The one with 2 came forward and said, "Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I have made 2 more talents." His master said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." The one who received 1 talent came forward and said, "Master, I knew you had to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours." His master looked at him and said, "You wicked and slothful servant. You knew I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I have scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested your money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For everyone who has will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Our talent is a terrible thing to lose, hide, and bury from the world. We all have a reason for existing. How wonderful is the feeling of waking up, looking forward to the day. Unfortunately, too many people are walking in darkness, including the rich, powerful, and famous, who are terrified of losing it all. The late rapper Biggie Smalls once said, "More money, more problems." I also found out that sometimes having more fans also means having more haters. What we need isn't always what we want. Sometimes what we want isn't always what we thought it would be. So how do we know what we need? How do we find and nourish our talent? Here are my 4 ways to find my purpose. Number 1, I examine my heart. Someone once said that awareness is like a beacon shining on a dark, unconscious mind. I use this beacon to examine my heart for finding hindering secrets or shame, and wisely share my hurts and struggles with God or a trusted confidant. By doing this, I bring my burdens to the light, and they can hide no more. When darkness flees, it allows us to be who we are and show that reality to others. Number 2, I find my authenticity. Authenticity is a way to shine for God by being what He created us to be. In a world of social media filters and fake lifestyles, something is refreshing about being who you are. When I'm honest about my struggles with others in a meaningful way, the right ones can relate and help me through those tough times. When I'm honest about my interests, it can open the door to find like-minded individuals who can help me shine even brighter. Number 3, when I reach out to friends and family with a positive text or a phone call, or give a thoughtful gift to someone, it can be a source of joy and peace for not only them, but for me. A compliment can go a long way for someone having a bad day. Where the workplace or social media might be a source of negativity, we can be a source of positivity for others. I also learned to really listen to others. One way to encourage is to be there for one another and show we care. Number 4, I find inspiration in the world around me. I learned how inspiration can come from anywhere. Sometimes I'm inspired by the Bible, my circumstances, or my relationship with others. I believe that God is everywhere, and that finding God in unlikely places is the essence of what it means to be alive. When I read the Bible, meditate, pray, and keep myself mindful throughout the day, I'm able to immerse myself in light and see the world differently. God has given us an incredible gift that shouldn't be hidden or buried. Instead, we should let His luminous glow within us and shine out into the world. When we show up as our authentic selves, we demonstrate to the world that light is possible in darkness. I want to finish this message with a story I heard of a rabbi. He was sent to an island off the coast of Alaska in search of Jews. When he went, he searched for 2 weeks and could not find a single Jew. He felt terrible because he was sent there to find a Jewish community but couldn't find a single Jew. On the day he was supposed to leave, he visited an elementary school to see if he could find one Jewish kid. He walked into a classroom and said, "I'm just wondering if you know of any Jews." One girl raised her hand and said, "I'm not Jewish, but my mom is." He paused for a minute and considered where he was. He was at the edge of the world, and the child, the vessel in his hand. He was to leave on a flight in 3 hours, so he didn't have enough time to figure out what to do to inspire her. He couldn't take her phone number or email address. She was only 7 years old. What was he going to do? He had 1 minute to inspire that little girl for the rest of her life. He turned to the girl and said, "I want to tell you something. You are the only Jewish girl in this time zone. Every other time zone has a Jewish girl who lights Shabbat candles, but this time zone does not. I need you to do me a favor. The whole world on Friday night is waiting for your candle. On Friday night at sundown, when Jewish women and girls light the Shabbat candles and usher in the Shabbat experience in every time zone, it's been taken care of. The light flickers and shines from one time zone to the next as the evening sun goes down. Then it comes to the last time zone and there's no light. The whole world is waiting for your light." The story doesn't finish there. That girl knew that she had a mission in the world. That one rabbi gave her a sense of purpose, a sense of identity. She went home and said to her mother, "We must light Shabbat candles." Her mother couldn't believe what she was hearing. At the edge of the world, she met a rabbi, and the rabbi told her to light Shabbat candles. The story didn't finish. She later surfaced in New York City as a young adult and told the story about what happened in Alaska and how she was the one who made the world complete. If a little girl in Alaska matters, then so do we. We just have to find our sense of purpose, talent, and why we matter. If we can't find it now, then keep going, keep searching, and keep investing in your sense of fulfillment. Sooner or later, it will multiply and affect people who need the spark to continue God's plan of salvation. We need to search within our own being for why we are here and why we matter, and do it by traveling down our paths despite the changing conditions, which might turn most people away. Don't get caught up in the God of this world. Find the spark. The whole world is waiting for our light. The famous musician Bob Marley once believed that we could cure racism by injecting music and love into people's lives. One day, they were scheduled to perform a peace rally. A gunman came to his house and shot him down. 2 days later, he walked out on that stage and sang. Somebody asked him why. He said, "The people trying to make this world worse are not taking a day off. How can I light up the darkness?" The whole world is waiting for our light. We must ask ourselves, how can we light up the darkness and let our light shine before mankind and glorify our Father which is in heaven? This has been Crown Vic, bringing you the palace. Thank you for tuning in.